The second season of Squid Game begins, and we see Ji-hoon at the airport, his hair dyed red. He is about to leave the airport when he changes his mind about traveling and decides not to visit his daughter. At that moment, he receives a call from an unknown person asking why he left the plane and didn't travel to his daughter in America. Song Ji-hoon decides not to travel. He knows they are from the game and tells them that he will look for them and get revenge. After that, Song Ji-hoon goes to a supermarket. He injures himself and discovers a tiny tracking device inside him. Meanwhile, Wang Jun-ho, a police officer, wakes from a coma, having survived the Squid Game. He had gone undercover as a game employee to find his elder brother, secretly documenting the illegal activities. Shockingly, he learned that his older brother was the game's overseer and tried to kill him to keep the game's secrets. 2 years later, Officer Jun-ho, now a traffic officer, stops a young couple for not wearing helmets on a motorcycle. Jun-ho insists on issuing a fine despite the fiancé's attempts to persuade him otherwise. She flirts with him, but her fiancé gets upset, taking the ticket from Jun-ho and leaving her punished alone on the street. Later, Jun-ho sits with his boss at work, upset and arguing about leaving the investigations and crimes department to become a traffic officer because no one believed his account of the deadly games. He discovered participants die if they lose. Jun-ho's boss asks if he remembers who shot him, but Jun-ho remains silent, claiming he didn't see the shooter. That night, Song Ji-hoon dreams the Squid Game supervisor found him, carrying the heads of his 2 colleagues from the game, and wakes up terrified. We find that his emblem's color turned black again. At that moment, he hears the doorbell ringing. He first looks at the surveillance cameras he had installed and sees Seok, who owed him a large sum of money. After Seok repaid it with the prize he won, Se-hyuk now works for him to find the man who stands at the metro station, luring people to join the game. Se-hyuk tells him that they've been searching for this seller for 2 years, and he disappeared without a trace. But Song Ji-hoon insists they continue the search because the game is still ongoing, offering Seok more money to keep looking with his men. Then Seok leaves, riding to his house, with his men with him. At that time, he finds out they are going to stop the search, so he tells one of his men that Song Ji-hoon. It appears astonishing because they've been looking for someone who doesn't exist for 2 years. But Woo-suk trusts Song Ji-hoon because many people who owed him have mysteriously disappeared. Not only did he pay off all his debts, but he's also offering them a large sum of money in exchange for finding the person he's searching for. And if they find him, they'll receive 1 billion Korean won. His men get very excited and accept the challenge. And the next day, we see Woo-suk gathering all his men to inform them of the sale-related information. And they scatter around subway stations to ask people if they encountered anyone inviting them to join the game, and to look for everyone wearing suits and carrying black bags. Meanwhile, Jun-ho. He searches all the islands around the sea because the game's location has changed, and he wants to know where it is now. Unfortunately, he doesn't reach anything, and days go by with no new findings. One night, Woo-suk sits in the metro station bored with one of his men, and suddenly they find the seller they're looking for. They actually see him playing with someone as Seong Gi-hoon told them. Woo-suk quickly calls Seong Gi-hoon to inform him they've found the seller. Seong Gi-hoon gets dressed, grabs his gun, moves quickly, and asks Woo-suk to keep an eye on him. Then the seller goes through all the poor and homeless people. He gives them the choice between bread and a card, and most opt for the card, but unexpectedly lose. Abruptly, he stops, tosses the bread on the ground, steps on it, indicating they chose wrong and lost. Shock spreads among them. Woo-suk films with his phone, trails him, and follows in a taxi, trying not to lose sight. Upon exiting, the seller spots them and assaults them. Meanwhile, Seong Ji-hoon, halted by traffic for speeding, receives a ticket, remains silent, and moves on. Jung-ho remarks on the man's peculiar behavior. Upon discovering that the ticket is addressed to him, Jung-ho is taken aback by Seong Gi-hoon's name. He searches the civil registry to confirm Seong Gi-hoon's identity with a photo, noting he was a Squid Game participant. Soon, Seong Gi-hoon reaches Woo-suk's place but only finds blood, raising suspicions of kidnapping. We then see the vendor has abducted Woo-suk and his companion, binding them to chairs with their mouths taped. He challenges them to Russian roulette, placing the gun to the head, leaving fate to decide. Either he gets shot and dies, or he gets another shot at life. They're both terrified, trembling, and frozen by fear. At that moment, Woo-suk loses, and the seller acts immediately. Meanwhile, Jung-ho arrives at Woo-suk's workplace, searching for the Squid Game seller. He searches the place thoroughly and finds Song Ji-hun's file in a drawer. Simultaneously, Song Ji-hun returns home, finding the seller waiting. The seller asks why he didn't leave after winning. Song Ji-hun replies he wanted to thank him for the game opportunity. The seller, once wealthy, requests to meet the game organizers to thank them. He reveals he discovered his father was in the game and had to shoot him for losing. This led him to realize the job suits him. Song Ji-hun asks if he feels special for winning. Song Ji-hun responds that he will never understand his feelings or how to win without participation. Then, the seller proposes they play a game of Russian roulette, loading one bullet in the gun. The seller and Song Ji-hun engage in a twisted game of Russian roulette to decide fate. Although the dealer offers Song Ji-hun a chance to bypass the game by using a key in his pocket to eliminate the organizer, Song Ji-hun dismisses this, calling the dealer a mere obedient dog without value. Eventually, it's the dealer's turn, and the bullet does hit him, ending his life. Despite the opportunity to escape it, Song Ji-hun's decision leads to this fatal conclusion. Concurrently, Junho is in his car, tracking Song Ji-hun's location when gunshots pierce the tense atmosphere. So he hurried down and quickly searched the building for Song Ji-hun. He found his colleague Woo Seok alive but tied up on the bed. Realizing his name was Kim Jun-ho, he questioned him about Song Ji-hun. Kim said he was in room 410. Jun-ho went there, saw the vendor's body, and arrested him. Suddenly, Kim hit Jun-ho's head, claiming to be Song Ji-hun's assistant, while Woo Seok revealed he killed the vendor. At that moment, Song Ji-hun had the Squid Game card with an address. Later, Junho woke up with Song Ji-hun beside him, asking how he knew about them. Junho recounted the events, including a fight at the game headquarters. People wearing masks came to stop the fight. Song Ji-hun is shocked and realizes that Junho is one of the game employees. Junho explains that he was undercover among them to search for his brother, but Song Ji-hun doesn't believe him. Junho tells him he asked if he knew someone named In-ho because that's his brother. Song Ji-hun remembers that one of the masked people asked about In-ho. Junho asks Song Ji-hun who gave him the heads up. Song Ji-hun tells him it's the salesman who recruits players to participate in the game, and that he shot himself because he lost the game he was playing with him. He also tells him he's looking for the game administrators to get revenge and stop them. Junho tells him he saw the game's head when he was one of the employees, and they called him the leader, but he was always wearing a black mask. Song Ji-hun decides to search for the unit and tells Junho. The old man number 1 told him that this game is for the customers, and if it reaches the customers, the game will stop and end at that time. John is saying that he also wants to find them just like that, because he can't forget his brother, just like he's certainly not forgotten the people who died in the game, and he might be able to help him later. Song Ji-hun takes Kim and Jun-ho to the room where he put the money he won from the game, and shows them the weapons he collected over 2 years to be prepared for confrontation. He also shows them the secret place where he was training to use these weapons, and asks Jun-ho to quit his job. Song Ji-hun goes to a broker who helps people immigrate, asking him to bring Si-byok's mother from North Korea to South Korea. The broker tells him she has been released but is suffering due to the spread of tuberculosis in prison, and that it will take time. Song Ji-hun tells him he'll pay any amount of money he wants, so the broker hands him a note with the address of her mother's fish shop, and tells him if he can't reach her, he'll find Si-byok's brother there. Later, the same broker is visited by his young daughter, named Nayul. We learn that she's searching for her 1-year-old daughter. Since she's in North Korea, the broker informs her it's unlikely for her 1-year-old to survive there, especially without her parents. He suspects she fled after shooting her boss, labeling her as a criminal. Apologizing for hurting her feelings, he acknowledges the difficulty of a mother forgetting her child, but insists she must move on, believing her daughter is likely deceased. That night, Niall is seen in her car, tearfully holding a photo of her family. Suddenly, a stranger knocks on her window, handing her a Squid Game card, startling her. The following morning, we see Jun-ho visiting the graves of his wife and brother. He places a flower on her grave, like his brother used to. At home, his mother shares her sadness, thinking his brother doesn't want to live with them anymore, and fears he believes she favors John. She clarifies John is her son. He is her husband's. She mentions his upset since his wife's death, feeling helpless to aid her due to his kidney donation to John. John feels disliked because his kidney could have funded his wife's treatment. She often makes him feel guilty, which saddens him. We then see Nayul resigning from her job with a children's fashion team at an amusement park. As she departs, she notices an ambulance with a sick girl, also named Nayul, sparking memories of her own hospital visit. You hear the doctor informing Nayon's father about her leukemia diagnosis and that insurance unfortunately won't cover her treatment. Distressed, Nayeon goes to her room, tenderly holding her hands, leaving her cap behind. She then calls the number on the Squid Game card, expressing her desire to participate, giving her name and birth date. She's instructed on where to go for transportation to the game. At the same time, we see Sung Ji-hoon visiting a dentist to implant a dissolvable tooth with a tracking device. He asks Kim to be quiet and not speak. Song Ji-hun and John Ho see the men that Kim brought to help with the plan, and they learn from Kim that they were in the special forces in the Korean army. Song Ji-hun meets their leader Kim, and they set up the plan that he and his team will follow. Song Ji-hun goes to the address on the game card, using the disguise to his advantage, telling John Ho it's Halloween. Song Ji-hun and Kim enter the party venue, while John Ho waits in the car and monitors them via a tracking device on Song Ji-hun. Unexpectedly, during his lecture, John notices people in red suits and masks, identifying them from the Squid Game. He urgently warns Kim and Seong Gi-hoon. At the party entrance, guards block John, forcing him to threaten one with his gun for entry. Inside, a game employee attacks Kim, stunning him with a taser. Meanwhile, Seong Gi-hoon is tracked and finds a white car awaiting him. He boards it, observed by John, who instructs Kim's team to tail the car using its number plate. In the vehicle, Seong Gi-hoon talks to the game's leader through bear-shaped headphones. He's reminded of his promised trip to his daughter, but asserts demanding an end to the games. The leader counters, asserting participants joined voluntarily. Seong Gi-hoon disputes, highlighting the exploitation of participants' financial desperation. She manipulates their emotions to get them into the game. The man pulls out his gun, aiming to kill the driver, but the official insists it's impossible. Then it becomes apparent a sniper targets Kim's car tire to stop them from trailing the car with Song Ji-hun. At this moment, Song Ji-hun opts to rejoin the game, provoking the leader by suggesting he's afraid of losing to him, like the old man, number 1, once did. The leader counters, stating since he decided to join, his wish will be fulfilled. Suddenly, sleeping gas fills the car, and it's revealed that the game leader sits up front beside the driver, wearing his black mask, greeting Song Ji-hun, number 456 back. Meanwhile, Niall is seen in a Squid Game outfit. The next day, Sung Ji-hoon wakes up in the Squid Game facility next to Nayeon, both dressed in player uniforms. Around them, other players are also waking up as the game staff enter, clad in red overalls and masks, informing participants they will engage in 6 games over 6 days. The winner of all games will receive a substantial cash prize. Confused, the players question their abduction and the masked staff. A staff member explains it's for game security, complying with game policy. The employees must not reveal their identities no matter what, and at this time, player number 333 wants his money to keep track of the cryptocurrency market and not lose all his money. One staff member tells everyone that participant number 333's name is Myung, 30 years old, runs a YouTube channel convincing subscribers to invest in cryptocurrencies, causing them to lose 15 million won. Then his channel got shut down, and he disappeared because he was wanted for fraud and violating communication and investment laws. He has debts of 1.5 billion won. Then, the employee talks about the player whose number is 196, named Mina Kang, who has debts of 45 million won. The employee continues discussing all the players participating in the game, and everyone is shocked to learn that one of them is in debt by 10 billion won. Then the employee surprises them by announcing that the prize will be 45 billion won, and informs them that after each game, there will be a vote to decide whether they want to continue the games or not. Seong Gi-hoon is shocked because it means they can leave at any time and take the money they've accumulated from the games. The players begin to sign their agreement, so they can start the game and participate. Then player number 230, named Thanos, gets into a fight with Myung because he was one of the investors in the cryptocurrency that got scammed and lost all his money. We learn that Thanos is a famous rapper, and during shooting, his fans among the players want to take photos with him, but one of the staff stops them because it's against the game rules. Suddenly, they're surprised by their friend named Jong B, who they discover is also participating in the game. At this moment, Jong B is shocked that Seong Gi-hun is alive. Because he thought he was dead since he disappeared 3 years ago and also heard his mother died, Jong Bae tells Seong Ji-hun that he divorced his wife and his son now lives with her. Seong Ji-hun tells him that he must stay close to him and never leave him. Jong Bae is surprised by his manner. Meanwhile, Junho is tracking Seong Ji-hun's location, and we see that he's on a boat with Kim, searching for the place shown on the map until they reach an island in the sea. They use a drone camera to accurately locate Seong Ji-hun's exact position, and suddenly Kim finds the fisherman standing on the shore and sees the tracking device that was in Seong Ji-hun's tooth. In the meantime, Kim is calling Junho, telling him what happened. Then we see the players on the field as they start the first game called Red Light, Green Light. At that moment, Seong Gi-hun is shocked how Kim and Junho are so late to reach him. He looks at the fake wristband he placed and writes that the tracker is there. He is heavily shocked at this time, stands and talks to all the players, telling them that this isn't just a game, and if they lose, they will die because the player is a puppet that monitors their movements during the red light, and if anyone moves, he will die. Everyone laughs at what he says, thinking he's gone mad. He suspects he's trying to win alone and take the money. The game begins, and the doll starts counting before turning to see movement. Seong Gi-hun decides to help since he's played it before. At that moment, Jung-bi asks him to calm down because he's getting scared. A bee lands on player 196's neck. She moves in fear and gets shot, dying instantly. Seong Gi-hun yells for them not to move, warning them amid fear and panic. A large group of players move and die one by one. We then realize Nayeon is a game staff member responsible for eliminating losers. Her father is among the players, and we see the leader watching the game on TV. During this, belief in Seong Gi-hun's words grows, and some players reach the finish line. He decides to return to the game again to help him. The game helps Hyun-soo, number 120, and they reach the finish line and succeed. But Nayeon kills the player they saved because he is a failure and didn't win by his own effort. Seong Gi-hun and Hyun-soo are shocked, and after the game, the staff enter the game and are very afraid of them. At this moment, one of the staff members congratulates them for winning the first game, but at the same time, the whole game tries to apologize to the staff because they are afraid of being killed. They inform everyone that clause number 3 in the game states if all vote to end it, the game will stop and they'll leave. However, after witnessing the accumulated money post 91 deaths, the players' greed prevails, and they opt for a second game. At this point, staff organize a vote, leaving the choice to the players. Seong Ji-hun initially votes to end it, but notices more people wanting to continue, getting frustrated and urging them to reconsider, fearing continued play will lead to everyone's death. Some players resent Seong Ji-hun's guidance, yet others credit him for their survival. He realizes their despair. He played this game 3 years ago, so he knows the first game's outcome. Seong Ji-hun wins, and everyone who was with him died. This awareness makes the group crave the prize even more, compelling them to continue. Meanwhile, an employee pressures Seong Ji-hun for interfering with the voting. During a tie, player 1 decides to continue, revealing himself as the leader, defying Seong Ji-hun. The next day at lunch, players ask Seong Ji-hun about the second game, Dalgona, involving 4 sugar candy shapes, with the triangle being the easiest and the umbrella the hardest. The leader, disguised as player 1, questions Seong Ji-hun's return after taking 45 million won, to which Seong Ji-hun replies that the money isn't his, since it belongs to all who died. Just then, Thanos tries to provoke Myung. Thanos demands Myung win to recover lost money and shoves food in his face. They fight until Thanos rises and attacks Myung brutally. Player number 1 intervenes. Thanos mocks him and tries to hit back, but player number 1 strikes him back powerfully, forcing Thanos to plead to stop. Players cheer for player number 1 for halting Thanos. At night, while others sleep, player number 1 confides in Seong Ji-hun about his family's severe illness, liver cirrhosis, and need for a transplant. Desperate, He stole from a dealer he worked with, leading to accusations of bribery and job loss. The game is his only hope to save his wife, even if the money he wins is tainted with blood. Meanwhile, in the operating room, we learn that the staff is dissecting deceased players to harvest and sell their organs. They are shocked to find most organs unusable due to extensive damage and time elapsed since death. The corpses were shot twice to ensure their death, ruining the organs. The supervisor is informed it was employee number 1, revealed to be Nayul, who did it. Confronted, Nayul admits to shooting the players twice, and the supervisor, suspicious since their first meeting, decides to give her another chance, sparing her from the leader's wrath. Nail tells her that when he hired her, her job was to help the desperate. But their agreement changed. The supervisor gets annoyed, saying the organs save others. Nail stays quiet and leaves. Then John goes to the police station, asking his boss for help. The boss is upset because John resigned without telling him, but tries to help. John and his boss go to the police chief to find where the Squid Game is, but the chief is upset, saying there's no case without evidence. He desperately needs proof for them to believe him, but leaves very upset. Kami sits with Captain Park, who aids him and John in searching for the island. Kami mentions Song Ji-hoon and the ongoing game, with player number 222, John. We learn she knows Myung, who is surprised not to have noticed her before. It's revealed John is pregnant with Myung's child. Although they agreed to end the pregnancy, she decides to keep the baby, expressing happiness despite Thanos hitting him. Then, the second game starts. Song Ji-hoon announces it's a new game requiring teams of 5, sparking arguments as players suspect he misled them. The game Sugar Candy starts with the team realizing they are 1 player short. John asks to join because she's pregnant and needs help. Meanwhile, Young-sik has trouble joining a team as he's with his elderly mother, who tells him to join without her, but he won't leave her. They eventually find a team for him. Once all teams are ready, the game starts. The staff explains the rules. There are 5 mini-games. Each team member plays 1, and they have to win for their team's success. Their legs will be tied together during the games. Fear starts to spread among everyone as they witness teams losing and dying from gunshots. Staff members come to take the dead away in coffins. At this point, Nayul finds one of them still alive and shoots him in the head. Next, it's the remaining team's turn. Young-sik devises a clever way for them to move, suggesting they walk backward to increase their speed and not waste time. Despite suspicions that she might fail because of her age, Young-sik's mom successfully completes her game. Their team wins. The last team is Song Ji-hoon's. They succeed in game after game, but player number 1 fails twice and feels hopeless. At this moment, he starts hitting himself. Song Ji-hoon tries to calm and encourage him until the whole team wins. But they are shocked to find that the team before them lost and died. Then we see 2 of the workers attacking Nail in her room. They are upset with her for killing the bodies incorrectly, making their organs unfit for sale. She tries to fight them off and escape, but they catch her and injure Skina Shab, threatening her that if she makes another mistake, they'll cut off her fingers. Then the workers tell the players that the amount of money they collected from the 2 games is 20 billion won. The players are upset because the amount is small, even though 110 players died in the second game. The workers tell them that they can vote again if they want to continue the game or stop it. Player number 1 is the first to vote, and this time he chooses to stop the game. But Young-sik agrees to continue the game, which shocks his mother, and player number 1 notices that many people want to continue the game, despite seeing many die right in front of them. He feels sad for them, and asks how they can still want to continue the game. With voting completed, the decision to continue prevails. Song Ji-hoon feels utterly hopeless. Later, Young-sik seeks to make amends with his mother, admitting that his debts compelled him to choose to continue. She warns that one of them might die in the third game. Meanwhile, Ga-young-pee also aims to reconcile with Song Ji-hoon and others, explaining his desperate need to clear his hefty debts. Song Ji-hoon warns that in the third game, they might face situations where they must turn on each other during the night. He insists on ensuring his team's safety, fearing a repeat of players attacking each other in their sleep. In this tense moment, player number 11 expresses surprise at Song Ji-hoon's actions, suggesting they're overly scared. Song Ji-hoon, however, frustratedly reminds them of the unseen horrors he's witnessed. At night, everyone sleeps, but Young-sik tries to convince the staff to let her and John go to the bathroom. She pleads with them to agree and succeeds. A little later, Young-sik feels that John has taken too long. Upon entering, she finds her crying because she's feeling pain and is scared something might have happened to the baby. John says she's crying because she's scared. The next day, we see John gather two teams. One will move with Captain Park, and the other with Captain Ko. John tells Park they must find the island before 6 days pass, or the game will end. At that moment, they know the third game will start soon, which involves a platform announcing numbers where they must group people accordingly and enter rooms, closing the door within 30 seconds. During this time, everyone is thinking about how they'll form the groups. According to the number called out at that moment, the platform starts spinning and stops suddenly. They hear the number 10, and they have 30 seconds to form a team of 10 people, enter the room, and close the door. At this moment, everyone is extremely anxious, and they start arguing. Soon-gi Ji-hoon feels uncomfortable seeing the players who lost being killed by the staff. With each game, the game becomes harder, and they start pulling each other in the room to gather the right number. In one of the rounds, the number 3 is called, and we see two people pulling Young-seok away from his mother. At this point, player number 1 questions Young-sik's mother about her son's whereabouts, hinting he has left her. The group realizes Young-sik's good nature, but when they leave, he's heartbroken for abandoning his mom. She tries to reassure him. In the following game, Myung takes Young-mi's place in a room and dies, causing distress as Young-mi was dearly loved. The next round sees Young-bae and player number 1 sharing a room due to the number called being 2, which surprises Young-bae when player number 1 violently kills the extra person. By the game's end, the staff informs the players. They will take their votes again to see if they want to stop the game before starting the fourth game. The players start voting, and Samgi is somewhat pleased because the number of players wanting to stop the game has slightly increased. However, Ji-young is worried about player number 1 and feels he will choose to continue the game, but he decides to stop the game at this moment. The result is a tie, and the staff tells them that in this situation, they will repeat the vote, but will give them some time to think more about their decision. Then we see Thanos trying to convince player Monso. He changes his voice and votes and continues the game, but at that moment, Myung enters and asks Thanos to stay away from Monsu. Thanos provokes Myung by talking about their relationship, leading to a big fight between them. Thanos violently beats Myung, but at the same moment, Myung gets up with a fork and stabs Thanos in the chin and neck. Meanwhile, Junho and Captain Kim find a door on the ground on one of the islands. When they approach the door and try to open it, there's a bomb and it explodes. They return to the ship, and Junho understands from Kim that those responsible for the game are aware of their movements and have set traps everywhere. They decide not to use their phones and instead use wireless communication. Meanwhile, Myung-ji is feeling anxious and regretting what he did to Thanos for killing him. He enters the bathroom, shutting the door behind him. At this time, all the players start fighting and hitting each other. Some even go as far as killing anyone in their way. Meanwhile, the staff stands frozen at the bathroom door, not moving and letting the players destroy each other. Then we see the players who refuse to continue the game as well as those determined to keep playing, battling each other intensely. After a while, each team sits separately, planning strategies to win the vote. At this point, Song Gi-hoon proposes they fight the staff and take their weapons, but player number 1 opposes, fearing the staff's numbers and superior weapons. Song Gi-hoon argues it's their last chance to stop and end the game. When bedtime comes, some players hide under beds to shield themselves from the team committed to continuing. At this moment, all players engage in a fierce struggle. They kill each other without thinking or hesitation. We see Song Ji-hoon hiding under his bed, not moving at all, waiting for the staff to appear since the death of a large number of players is not in their interest, as there wouldn't be enough players to continue the game. Indeed, after a while, the staff come in and scare everyone with their weapons. Meanwhile, Song Ji-hoon pretends to be dead to attack the staff along with Jong-bi, who does the same thing. They manage to take weapons from the staff and attack them, making the supervisor go crazy. He asked the staff to retreat and close the doors. They didn't flee but instead went to get weapons and reinforcements. However, Song Ji-hoon and his group capture some of them. Song Ji-hoon prevents one of his companions from killing the team determined to continue the game, even though they killed many who refused to continue. Song Ji-hoon and his group are sabotaging all the cameras. They stop to talk with all the players, saying they need to attack the officials watching them through the cameras. Ji Hong-pui also speaks, expressing his fear but highlighting this as their only chance to escape. The players encourage one another, joining Song Ji-hoon one by one. Then, Song Ji-hoon forces the captured staff to remove their masks and reveal their identities. He takes one of them to lead him to the game officials, but suddenly, armed employees attack them and open fire. The guide warns them not to let the players get close to the admin area, but Song Ji-hoon and his companions manage to escape. At this moment, the employee accompanying Song Ji-hoon arrives at the road leading to the admin area and realizes he has to wear his mask to bypass the security system. Suddenly, a bullet hits the employee's head. Song Ji-hoon and his group hide and start shooting at the employees. They take the mask from the dead employee and, along with Jong-bi, escape to find the admin area by themselves. They open door after door, but find nothing. Song Ji-hoon places the mask in front of the camera, and suddenly the door leading to the admin area opens. Meanwhile, the supervisor watches them through surveillance cameras and sends employees to arrest them. As soon as the employees see Song Ji-hoon and Jong-bi, they're continuously attacked with weapons, but Song Ji-hoon bravely manages to seize the weapons from the fallen employees. During this, player number 1 glances at the camera before reaching Song Ji-hoon and Jong-bi. Song Ji-hoon hands him ammunition as backup. Dae-ho, collecting ammunition from the deceased employees, feels the intensified gunfire, becomes frightened and retreats, discarding the walkie-talkie and ignoring his colleague. Meanwhile, as player number 1 distances himself from Song Ji-hoon, he kills the accompanying players and communicates with Song Ji-hoon via the walkie-talkie. He tells him that everything is over now and hears the sound of gunfire, killing the player in front of him. Sung Gi-hun gets upset, not understanding what's happening, thinking the staff killed player number 1 and those with him. Meanwhile, on the ship, the drone owner sees Park playing with it and becomes suspicious, prompting Park to stab him and throw him into the sea. At the same time, Cam approaches and tells Park he heard a strange noise. Park responds that he heard it too and asks him to come along to see its source, deceiving him that it was the sound of the waves. Meanwhile, we see many players injured, and the situation becomes so dire that one of them, he decides to kill himself and end it all just as they inform Seong Gi-hoon that they will surrender. But the employees kill them at the same moment. Seong Gi-hoon and Gong-bi then decide to surrender themselves too because they are now alone. And the speaker appears wearing a black mask and shoots Gong-bi in front of Seong Gi-hoon, telling him this is the result of his mistakes. Seong Gi-hoon is distraught at this point because of Gong-bi, and continues to scream and cry in pain and intense anger while looking at the sky. In the final scene, we see the remaining players facing a new game, which seems to be a different version of red light, green light. Because in this time, there are 2 dolls, not just one,